Okay.
There are some surveys that are over on this table. If you haven't had a chance to fill out the surveys,
where?
we've got paper surveys. We've also got brochures that give you basic information about the project. So feel free to grab those. And they're also available online, but it does end tonight at midnight because our deadline was May 1st for the surveys. Okay. So I would like to welcome everybody. Thank you for taking time to come. My name is Colleen. I am the chair of the school building committee, and I'm also on school committee. So we really appreciate community members coming out and being part of this process, because this is truly a town project. This is not a school project. This is a town project, and if we don't have the input from the town on this project, it probably won't be successful. So again, thank you. I know that this is a tough time of night, so we appreciate everybody coming out. I want to introduce people that are up here tonight. I don't know how many people have met everybody, so if you've met them, bear with us as we do the introductions. Cheryl Doble and Ben Robinson were nice enough to help host this tonight. They're from the Vision Planning Council of Forum. I'm not sure what the terminology is right now. Forum. And they're also, Cheryl's on the school building committee and the planning board. And then over here we have our architect, Peter Turoski, and his wife Libby is sitting back there. They are our architects for the project. And then Joe Sullivan is our project manager. Our owner project manager, or we refer to as our OPM, the people that are going to oversee the entire project, as Daedalus Projects. They're out of Boston, and we are very lucky to have this team of architects and OPM. We're in very, very good hands, and it's been a really great process partnering with the Massachusetts School Building Authority. So I'm going to turn it over to them. We have a format that we're going to follow, and then feel free. We'd love to hear everybody's. So Peter, I'm going to turn this over to you. Joe, will start.
Okay, so welcome everybody. Can I just get a show of hands for people that were at town meeting and heard the presentation there? Or,
Cheryl.
and then maybe anybody who
How many of you saw the presentation at town meeting?
So
Last year?
everyone, just this last time.
This is the school. We just want to make sure.
This year?
This year. There was a presentation about the school.
Yeah.
Well, who's heard the presentation that we gave about the school project? And who's generally aware of where we are with the school project at this point in time? Has anyone not been following where we are? Well, I'll just give a very quick overview if you need more information. So we've been working since about December. And the first phase of the project, which is already completed and been submitted to the state for review, is basically evaluating sites, evaluating existing conditions, evaluating educational needs, and developing a space program. So we've done that. We've done the educational program. We've looked at sites. We've done the existing condition survey of the site and the building. And we've looked at 6 sites initially and have whittled it down to possible elimination for various reasons to 2 sites. For potential use for the school, and that is the existing school site, which is a requirement for the MSBA, and then also they require you to look at alternative sites as part of the study process. So you have one alternative site, if there are any available. And we found that the Mantor site is a suitable site potentially to house a new elementary school. So now the next phase is the preferred schematic design submission, which we are on schedule to submit at the end of June to MSBA, and that's the point in time in which the building committee, through the help of the community, will come to a decision on which option they want to put forward to get assistance from the state for funding. Is everyone clear on that pretty much?
Does anybody need us to go over the options that are being considered right now? Is everybody comfortable with that?
So I'll just quickly, the existing site, there are 2 options. One option will be an additional renovation option, and one option will be to remove that building and build a new building on that site. And then the Mantor Well site, the alternative site obviously is a new building because it's an undeveloped site at this point. Oh, and then there's a base repair option, which is just basically fixing what's there. The building is severely undersized for the school's needs, so you know that. It didn't have any spaces, just repair what's there. What we found, aside from the base repair, the 3 options that are expanding to meet the full program are all relatively equal. So there's not a big cost difference between them. So there isn't a lot of cost variability. Yes.
The cost options for Mantawell, did that include the road and sidewalks and sewer and all the infrastructure?
We did have cost for some road development, we had cost for septic or sewer.
Okay.
As the plans evolve, the cost will be a little bit more detailed as we move forward, but we have allocated some funds against each of those categories.
So the plan tonight is not really to present to you, but to just have a discussion with you about the two sites and try to come up with a list of benefits and challenges for each of the sites. So the committee can hear voices of the community and meet to discuss them more and help formulate their own opinions on what the final option will be. And hopefully the building committee will reach a consensus. They may not. There may be varied opinions, so it will just be a democratic process where the most votes wins, but we'll see when we get to that.
And I think one of the most important things to remember is both of these sites we're looking at would absolutely meet what we need if we were going to build a new building. Both sites would adequately do that. We'd be good in either situation. I think what we're trying to consider now, the school's already proven itself on the current site. We know it would work, it's been there a long time. I think we need to hear from people, are there advantages, especially for the educational needs of the 21st century learning and looking forward, are there opportunities or programming abilities that would exist on Mantawell that don't exist at the current school site? So looking long term, when we're building this school, because we're looking at probably at least another 50 years, before we consider ever doing another building project, maybe 80, maybe 100, does the Mantawell site offer more benefits and expansion possibilities for the future more than the existing site? Because we've already proven that the existing site works. So we really have to look at the Mantawell site and say, educationally, the needs of the kids, the needs of the community, what benefits are there with the Mantawell, and kind of that's where the burden of proof is kind of right now with us, with the community, and where the community feels our recreational fields important. Unfortunately, we've lost those at the current site over the past couple of years. Is that something the community wants to see come back to the school environment for community use, for the children that go to the school there? We've had some changes around the existing site, like the fire station is now across the street. Is that something that the community is comfortable with? Would they rather see the school away from that kind of traffic and noise? And so that's what we're trying to get the feedback on. We know the current site's going to work. We know both sites are going to be great if whichever one we choose. As a community, what do you see as the benefits and the challenges? So that's what we're kind of coming from tonight. Yes?
I have an architectural question that has been on my head for a few months since this all started. My name is Freddie Runlin. I used to be a hospital
Freddie Runlin?
Runlin. I used to be a hospital administrator my whole life, professional life. And one thing that's happened over the last 20, 30 years in terms of design, they have now shown that the design of the facility can aid in the healing process of the individual in that environment. Okay? You've probably seen commercials on Dubai Hospital on TV. That's supposed to be state-of-the-art facility. But my point is, in education, in talking with an architect, the same is true, that there's been significant design changes and recommendations from a learning perspective. And as you said, the kid is the first, that's really why we're here. So again, my question is, with what we're doing, I'm looking more at the internal. Has that been taken into consideration? Because assuming it has, new construction, there could be a cost benefit or savings. I mean, benefit or negative with either approach. So again, my question simply is, has the design changed, or are we going to talk about some rectangular classrooms and throw up a building and there we go?
Yeah.
Fair question?
Yeah, it's a fair
Okay,
question,
thanks.
yeah. So one of the developments in education is the need for more flexible space. Students, teachers don't stand at the front of the classroom with a row of children, 20 children lecturing them anymore. Children work in many different ways, learn in different ways. They're grouped in different ways for learning, specialized learning. Sometimes they move out of the classroom, sometimes move around the classroom, they move furniture. So yes, flexibility and adaptability is probably the biggest thing with education now, and probably moving forward for a very long time. So
on the agenda of that same nature is the stimulation of the inside of the building. They're not just carte blanche. They're not just white paint, white walls, dark floors. There's a lot of different variations of the architectural integrity of the inside of the building that really articulate what, the educational program is and what it does for the children in the building. They've had a lot of studies on, stimulation actually promotes education. So the architectural team and the designers have really thought through that process.
So I'm in total agreement now, we're in agreement there. So I guess what I would like to see respectfully moving forward, that at some point analysis be done at the present site, what would it take to retrofit that to benefit from a design standpoint for both of the points that you just made? And then what would the cost be incorporating that same schematic in, over the manor site? I'm just trying to get apples to apples.
So we have looked at that. We've looked at fitting the program into the existing building and building a new building roughly, and we've looked at the cost, and as I said, the costs are comparable. I will say, if we're talking about benefits and challenges, or benefits and opportunities and challenges, that the existing building is going to present more challenges than benefits. And the new building, doing a new building will, that's irrelevant of site, because we have a new building option on the existing site as well. A new building will provide the most flexibility
versus a renovation. Because you got to remember, it's a square building, and you've got square classrooms that exist. If you're trying to make those changes in there, would be a challenge.
And what makes it particular, if it was an existing building on the manager site, it might be a whole different story. But that site is such a challenging site in itself. The building makes it even more challenging, where it's located, the number of stories, the grading across the site, all of those things make it very challenging.
Thanks for addressing that, that's great.
One of the things is I love the Mantor Well site, but when I haven't heard too much when I expressed my approval for that site. The pushback is what's the environmental impact for the school to be at a site with the word well in it, so can you address that?
So we did have an interdepartmental meeting with all of the town departments a couple of weeks ago. The water department was there. The water department's well aware of this project. And we were also looking at the Tisbury well site, for that matter, which did present some problems. But Massachusetts water regulations just require certain radius protection around the well. There's 28 acres on the Mantor well site, and we would use about a third of that to develop and be well outside of that. And the water department does plan to drill additional wells, but further to the east, I think, so further out into the town land, that's further down the road.
So would it be have its own septic system, or would it be part of the?
The sewer is not far away, and I forget the name of the street. There's a side street that runs in. It's a short distance up the road that we can connect in. There's capacity in the sewer, we're told by the sewer department, to take the school flows into that system. But we'd have to pump to that.
So we have been in contact with every department in the town, and even we've gotten some reports back that the DPW, a lot of us shared with us from the studies they've done. They looked at Mantor Well, which Mantor Well they feel is pretty comparable. So we have done. There's more studies that Peter will talk about that's going on with the Mantor Well land right now. I know some of the questions we've got is about the aquifer and will that be effective. We've sat down with everybody we can possibly sit down with that we will have knowledge, and we haven't had anybody tell us it was a problem using that site. From the resources we have within the town and within some of the government agencies we dealt with.
And the issue with the water, and the sewer sort of removes the problem of the water, because it is also in the through watershed area, so we require a special kind of septic system. Now we don't need to depend on septic, we can connect to a sewer to avoid that. So the sites are actually, in terms of permitting, pretty equally balanced. The only one exception is that Mass Historical has asked for an archaeological survey of that site, which we've done a preliminary one. There was a walkthrough last week by our archaeologists, and they found no evidence of anything at this point in time. We haven't got the final report yet.
And we'll get to everybody, I promise. I just want to try to go in order of who I see again. So Peter, I know your hand is up next, and we'll go to you, sir.
The issue of kids walking to school, I used to live basically down towards the Mantor Well site and was walking up State Road, going to Tisbury School when I was a kid. The lack of sidewalks there, I think they've been improved since then, but my neighbor and I were walking home from school one time and he was clipped by a car. And so I'm wondering if you address the, where the school's currently located, it's much easier for kids to walk to school, and being out that far, I think the majority of kids who do walk to school will now be taking the bus, and is that being considered into this plan?
All life safety issues around the school are addressed as far as egress going to them. I mean,
We're just talking about sheer numbers, that you're going to drastically reduce the number of kids that would be walking to school just by locating it out there.
And it's always a difficulty. I mean, you would hope every district and every town has adequate sidewalks to provide all that. The Manchester site would need a little bit of design of the civil to determine, how much sidewalk access they would need, the safest possible routes to get to that point. So I think as the design evolves from that, I think that'll be taken into consideration.
I want to have John Custer jump in. He's our principal, if anybody doesn't know John Custer. He has done some preliminary research about this that you might find interesting, because another committee has found this interesting.
So we wanted to find some numbers to either back up or enlighten folks who have sort of shared with what their expectations are, or their perceptions are of how many kids currently walk to school. So what we found is, of the 315 students currently enrolled in the school, 14% of them walk or bike to school daily, 27% take the bus to school daily, and 59% are driven by their parents daily.
Both ways.
No, after school is much different, because after school plans change with the Boys and Girls Club and YMCA, so really they're arriving to school in the morning was the more critical number we were looking at. So 14% biker walk, 27% bus, 59% driven by parents.
You don't have a sense of how many people walk home versus?
No, like I just said, that's a
That'd be a curious number, because there's a time constraint to getting to school in the morning.
Yep.
And it's a much, they walk, a lot of kids walk in the town, that number as well.
That is a trend across the state. Parents are driving to school. It's sort of common in every community sometime.
Right, sorry. Yes?
Yeah, well, other than Mr. Norton, I don't know who else is in those meetings that would remember it. When the town purchased the Manta Well property, it was done with the intention that it would never, ever be built on. It was, we're gonna buy extra land to preserve our aquifer. If we had to drill another well, we'd have more land to drill another well onto. In addition, yeah, you'd have sewerage there to take care of the septic, but what about the road runoff and the other contaminants that are gonna be increased if we have an active school up at that location?
Well, the zoning bylaw, I think, addresses the requirements for that kind of thing in the water protection area, but the town council has reviewed the deed, and there is no deed restriction. There isn't.
I didn't say there was a deed restriction. I'm telling you what the voters were asked to vote for when we purchased that land. If you go back and look at the town meeting votes, it was very explicit at that time.
Do you have any idea when that was? We haven't heard about that.
80s.
80s? Okay, thank you. Maybe that's the first time we've heard that.
That's good information,
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah. We'll go 1, 2, 3. So we'll start with Henry and then the two ladies at the table.
I was looking at the MVC's GIS maps, and they included an overlay which designates the Manta area as a sensitive habitat and also a core habitat. They're right on top of this territory. And I know, just to follow up from his other comments, the town acted to create a significant amount of property access. While land bank also cooperated and purchased other properties, so there was a coordinated plan to preserve that whole territory. And I understand the land bank's point of view about this was to create a green belt buffer behind Oak Bluffs and Union Haven simultaneously, because you have that crazy zigzag boundary. So that whole territory was meant to be a large open space. There's a whole bunch of paths and trails that thread their way through there. Holmes Hill Road, Hackney Path, Massapequa Path, they go to Stony Hill, they go to, there's another one goes up to the Sheriff's Meadow property in one direction, another one goes down to Sheriff's Ferry and Round Road the other. And so there's a whole system of trails and threads that go through that territory with the expectation that you're traveling in and around through wooded area. So for overlay of reasons, even though you might be able to lay a school on it, the intent, if I understand it, support what I heard, is that the intent was to have that as an open space preserve and not to develop it in any way. The most minimal kind of residential development was allowed, but otherwise not.
I'm sorry.
My name is Kathy Scott. Just in connection with that question also, I asked Brendan O'Neill of the Vineyard Conservation Society whether, she's been out of town, so couldn't come tonight, but whether, what some of the issues might be that, from the TSBS point of view, you probably know they spent a lot of effort and money to prevent the development, inappropriate development of non-nonprofit site. So he sent me these questions, and if I could just read them out so we could get them out there, is that okay?
Yeah.
So his first question is, with this push development of the non-nonprofit site, is there an intention to decommission the Mantor well? If yes, will it open development on Knocket and elsewhere? Is the reserve well at Tashmoo, the old ball field in Spring Street, change in status? What do the state authorities think of this? And his last question is, the Mantor site subject to the provisions of Mass Constitution, Article 97, which is, I think, the point that you were addressing.
So can we repeat, because some people couldn't hear the questions, can you just repeat the first one and we'll repeat?
Nice and loud.
Right, or you can
That's
repeat it
one
so
at a
people
time.
can hear. Yeah, well, it's a
Family of questions, I just
Okay.
wanted to get them onto the record.
okay.
So
So-
I'll go through them again.
Well, I can start with the Article 97 has been clear. It's not protected under Article 97, in the opinion of the town council. That's been determined. What were the others? The Mantor well site will not, the Mantor well is no intention of decommissioning it. That's one of the questions
If
that I know of.
If the well is, let's see,
What would you?
then there was a question about the reserve well at Tashmoo. Will that change status?
It wouldn't have an
Hold up.
impact on the reserve well. No impact on the reserve well.
Okay.
Can everybody hear
The
this?
the last question that you get is the future development of Knocket and that in the area around the school.
Most of the land is town owned.
I mean, it does seem that, as Henry was saying, the land bank has made quite a lot of investment in that area, and so it just seems a little sad to undo all of that work that's already been done. And also, I just want to say, that's all I want to say, is that the question was posed of educational opportunities at the Manuel site that don't exist at the other site. And I just think that it would be worthwhile also to turn that around and bear in mind also the educational opportunities of the current site that as being really in the community that wouldn't exist at the Manuel site.
Thanks. Rachel?
Couple things. So if you go onto the state's DEP water quality website, they talk about zone 1 around well, zone 2. This is outside of zone 1, within zone 2. Schools are considered moderate risk. They're not high risk, they're not low risk, they're moderate risk. And it doesn't have to do with septic so much as it has to do with functions of school, runoff. I'm sure the town probably wouldn't let you put fertilizer on your fields, for example. Just so everyone knows that. I have questions about Knocket too, and you all probably don't know what that is. If you're coming in Holmes Hill Road, there is a large property to the right, which is private. In the past, there was a grocery store planned for that site, which was very controversial in the community, and the Martha's Vineyard Commission turned it down repeatedly because they consider that a dangerous intersection and one that does not warrant significant in-out traffic. And the school is significant in-out traffic. And I'm wondering if this, I would hate to see us go so far and then go to the NBC and have them say, guys, there's no way. This is a dangerous intersection. We've had fatalities. Just mentioning that.
I could just tell you that we're doing preliminary traffic studies on both issues right now.
And we've got an outreach to the NBC right now. I mean,
Okay.
I've done enough projects on the island that it's important to go through them, even if it's for courtesy review of everything, so we
Right.
are going through that process.
Right, and just so you know, there is history of them turning down high traffic, and the school's gonna be high traffic. And then the other question I had was, would this site, would the Mantor site require natural heritage review, as well as Mass Historic?
Both sites actually require national heritage review. because-
Really, the in-town site does too?
Correct.
Except for the disturbed area.
Exactly.
Right.
It's-
Yeah, right, but I mean, they go,
So we
they
have,
go
we have
fine
written
either way.
to Natural Heritage and asked for a determination on a species that is there, or
Mhm.
is protected, we don't know yet, we're waiting for that reply, so that information is to
Okay,
what's the other question? Oh, Mass Historical has been contacted, they're the ones who call for the archaeological survey.
Right,
And
okay.
Site, they have no jurisdiction, they
Outside, yeah.
Oh, so it's-
jurisdiction
okay.
over it, just
And-
site.
and my guess, I know that the town asked the land bank to buy properties like, I believe the Mayfain, Tisbury Meadow property is aquifer protection. It was all part of the deal when the town was buying a number of properties, and they were, I wasn't here for the vote for the Mantor site, and you're right, it's not deed restricted. But I do remember all the later ones, it was all sold to the town, that it was all for water protection. The two other town well sites we have, Tasman and Sanborn, are both in compromised positions. And this is about the only area of town where we can meet our zone of contribution protection. So for me as a voter anyway, doing a pretty big development out there is a concern, because I don't know where else, needing more wells, that really seems to me the only place in town where we can really sink them, and I don't know how many we're gonna need for future use, and that's, for me, that's an issue.
I am that credit. I have a child going to first grade at Tisbury School next year, and I feel like, in the spirit of the vineyard, why build more? Build bigger, better, bigger, better. I mean, it was an amazing site. Maybe
the current site?
the current site, and I feel like maybe the way the school's positioned in the middle of the lot, it could be obviously a very talented architects working on it, could figure out something that really satisfied, what needs to happen for, learning in the 21st century and beyond. And, I really believe that having children, I live right next to school, so I'll be real honest with you. I think it's awesome we're going to walk to school, and it really is kind of a bummer to think that it may move years from now or maybe tomorrow, we'll see. But, and I also think it's kind of wonderful to have children in that area. I've heard from older people or anyone who drives around, you see these, young, vibrant, bodies, like, having their every day. And just to think of, safety-wise, too, these kids, they do up to 8th grade, they go to town a lot, to think they hang out, like, that will be truncated for their experience. So I really think it's important to keep it as part of the town and part of the experience and a part of the vibrancy of what a downtown is, so.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm trying to keep track. Everybody will get a chance to answer. We're going to go there, and we're going to go there.
I'm from the other age of the age spectrum than the previous speaker. But I would like to agree with her. As I've learned about this issue and have spoken with my contemporaries, all of our kids have graduated from the school, I think the sense that I have, and I think when I speak with people, is that we have this amazing, actually unique site. We have a large site in the center of a small town that functions as one of the centers of the town. And except for the architectural potential difficulties of construction, which I think are probably real, but we're building a school for something that's supposed to last 40 years. Even though it's 2 years of inconvenience. I guess I and I think many others who I've spoken to now can't really see any compelling reason for the school not to be in the site where the school is now, given all of the benefits that ensue for the town and for the kids, except perhaps for the ease of construction in the new site. So, what is compelling to move the school except for that?
I think we should be clear that because we're in this MSBA process, they require us to look at other potential sites throughout town. And we started with 6 total sites throughout the town, and we've actually narrowed it down to the Mantor being the only other potential site for a school in town. But this is just a requirement of the process.
I see.
We get to decide whether we think this alternative site makes sense, or do we stick with the existing site. So this is just an exercise in the process.
And part of that exercise, just to feed off of that, the MSBA requires us to look at the pros and cons, or the benefits and challenges with each of these sites. And that's part of the elimination process to basically consolidate them down to 2 sites. And then we have to, as we move forward, we have to present this information to them as well, because they're a significant partner on the reimbursement portion of the project. So not only do, we need the support of the town to move forward with it, we need their support to understand that we're not just picking a site just because we're picking a site and it's more costly because of it. They need to see the parameters around that as well. So, and it's great, the information we're getting and the feedback is great information just for us to absorb and take into consideration as we move forward, the submission of the next process. Okay?
And regardless of where this ends up, this is an amazingly exciting opportunity for our town right now. So we don't want anybody to be under any false impression that the committee's made up their mind, that we want, that we're open to everything right now, which is why we're doing all these workshops. And there will be people who have information in the community that we haven't heard to this point. We've been doing this for a year and a half now. We've been in this official process, so you have no idea how important all your feedback is. And bottom line is, at the end of this, and hopefully this September of 2020, we're going to have an amazing new facility for this town that's going to benefit everybody, the community, our children, the staff. So it's kind of a win-win if we handle this project the right way, and that the town supports it. So just want to thank you for that comment, because that was important to point out. Jaime, I know you got
Yes, I was at the PTO meeting on Friday last week, 28th, and there are some young mothers and teachers who actually expressed how important it is, and they're missing out. First of all, I'm against mental health, I have to say, but at the time they're mentioning, so some of them, more than half of them are mentioning that group sports are quite the important things that the children of that age are missing out. And I was saying at the time, our island, the entire island is a sports field or experience and anything. This is something that other city kids don't have. And so since we are talking about MSBA, why are they even forcing us, or requiring or demanding us to look at what's perfect site and theoretically asking us to look for something which has a more site difficulties and which induce more the infra to put in the future. So these are I don't quite understand why do we have to kind of go through this kind of a lead from them. Number 2, and because I'm kind of feeling that we are in such a rush, but people are clearly saying through the workshop and here that why do we not look at the existing site enough and then go for it. Now, for the first time today, I'm hearing it's required as a prerequisite. Then can you actually persuade the MSBA to broaden their like a checklist, because it doesn't really fall for us and it's kind of tormenting us unnecessarily by having these hypothetical secondary, third options. So we can actually narrow it down. But the only thing that I can hear clearly from young parents is and as an architect, I see the flexible space is definitely necessary. I totally agree with that, but it can happen in the existing sites too. Number 2 is that is the group sports of the baseball park and then the soccer field, is it really important to actually move away from the current location? Then I don't think so, but I want to hear from other people about that aspect too. So I now clearly understand for the first time that why you have to multiply the options up to 6 and narrow it down. To me, it's already a time waste.
Well, the
Can I speak to that? Because the MSBA, their goal is to have you explore all options, and they're paying for a good portion of their study. So they want to make sure you look at all options, because this new building authority replacing an old building authority, where that didn't happen, and a lot of bad decisions were made in communities because people didn't vet all of the potential options out. So that's really what it's all about. It's not they're not forcing you to do anything. They just want you to have your eyes open and look at all options. But only in this preliminary study. Once you make your decision, then you make your decision.
Hi, Jamie Hamlin. I've had 6, I bought my house on Lake Street in 1988 because my kids could walk to school. I'm with Nevada on that one. I wanted my kids to be able to walk walk to school, be able to walk to the library, walk downtown, and that's what's so great about the location here. I've been in that school a lot, so I understand that it is ancient and, there are parts of it that need serious repair, but it's kind of the beating heart of the town. I mean, look what happens to, look what happened to Eggertown when they moved, they didn't move the school, but they moved all their facilities out of town. There's no drugstore, used to be the grocery store, everything was in town, you could go downtown and get things. You can't do that anymore. Everything's moving out to the surrounding areas. And I really feel strongly that the school should stay exactly where it is, upgrade it, and make it a better school for all the kids and the future kids that are going to go there. But I agree with Yvette. I love to see the kids walking to school with their moms and the interactions that are going on. It's part of a small town. It's what a small town is. It's as I say, for me, it's the beating heart of the town.
I just want to add one piece of information. This Lake Street area is part of Tisbury.
Yeah.
The densest population of year-round residents on the island is just over 70%. The rest of the island averages between 43 to 46%. So the idea that, you move there to live when you're at school, this is the year-round heart of the island.
What's the intention, if you move, to do with this existing building? And has that been worked into the cost?
The school building committee has been, we don't feel like it's our place to say what would happen to that building. We have tried to, as much as we can, engage the town to say, what would happen to this building, but it's not a situation right now that anybody is comfortable saying what would happen. There's a lot of ideas out there what would happen, but at this point, there is no plan for the current building. Not to say that the town wouldn't step in at some point. There's been conversations, there's been no decisions.
A lot of discussion.
A lot of discussion about it, but it's not, the school building committee doesn't feel like it's their responsibility or even their business to say what would happen to that building. Yep.
So the cost of doing something with the existing building
Right.
is not part of the
Not part of this
aggregate?
at all. No, it is not. And it hasn't really, we've talked about it, but we feel like it's the town's responsibility and it's their decision as to what would happen with that building. And obviously, if they wanted to join forces on this and be part of the discussion, they'd be more than welcome to do that. But at this point, we don't have an answer to that question. And we don't anticipate right now having that be part of the decision-making process of what we have to decide for the preferred schematic design. I feel like at this point, we're just going to go forward with what the school building committee feels like is the best decision.
Based on everybody.
Yeah. I hope that answers your question. Yeah. Yes.
I appreciate the discussion on the design, because that's obviously an important thing, as you and I have mentioned, to enhance the learning experience. So this conversation is actually moving now from the Manor Mill on back to my neighborhood school. So just assuming that's the case, my question is, now with the two sites, there's something that we haven't discussed at all, and I haven't even seen it. I've been asking questions, I can't seem to get the answer. And that is, what's the demand going to be from the standpoint of the number of students? And my read and what the information that I have from different people is, in fact, the school-age population from 1 to 7 or 8 over the next 10 years and maybe out is going down for 4 reasons. One is housing. 2 is the ability for the mother, father, or both, or either, for employment. Now, what was the third?
People having less children.
Oh, people having less children, exactly. And basically, the population is not going to be going up, or maybe it's going like that. So I guess my question is, now if you're at the site, new versus old, whatever we decide to do, I'm again asking some respect for how many kids are going to be in there. Because that's going to be a driving force for square footage and how many rooms you need, whatever.
So, do you want to answer that? There's a projected decrease over what's there now. If you remember a study that concluded back in 2012, was it 2012? There was a projection of an increase, a small increase to about 350 students or 380 students. We're looking at 285 students projected. We're designing for 285 students.
I see. Thank you.
But with the projection of the 285, we still have to provide a location within the building for expansion in the event that you do need that expansion. I mean, if you just design for 285 and then you exceed it to 325 to 350 on a consistent basis, you need that space available or location of the design to show where there could be expansion if needed.
We could go up and use our 75-foot fire truck to.
I do a lot of different things.
Yes.
Carmen Nelson. I had a question about the tie into the sewer line. The current school is on sewer line now? Is that true?
Partially, mostly. I
Mostly.
think the gym side is not.
So if we built a new school, there's a bigger tie into it, the sewer system. I mean, I heard a lot of controversy about tying the MP Museum into the sewer system. That, at some point, we're capping out, so we're looking at some other big capital projects that are going to affect the school if we build a new school, and then we have an old school that, say, became a town building. That's also on the sewer system, and then we have the MP Museum, and we have businesses in downtown expanding. We're looking at already a sewer system that's inadequate for the need of the town, and then thinking about also the whole watershed concerns around Chashmu and housing. So are people going to need to tie into that? So I think that when we look at this kind of a big project, we also have to look at some of the other sort of big projects that are connected, even though they're not connected in the moment of choosing this new site.
Discussions on all of these topics are occurring regularly. The bottom line, though, with it is that although the school, the MSBA, kind of makes us look at all of these different options, we listen to all of the impacts that could be created by that, and that's how the building committee makes their indecision with that. So it's every single point that you're bringing up. The team is going through and trying to exhaust all of the different avenues that the impacts would have on each of the locations and school projects that we do.
Just to piggyback on your point, I just thought of something that I think this gentleman had talked about, what would happen to the existing building. One of the discussions that the school building committee had early on is said this is an amazing opportunity for the town. And one of the things that we're very grateful for is that we were chosen or accepted into this grant process with the MSBA to potentially receive up to 41.26% of the eligible reimbursement costs. This is probably one of the only times that you'll see the government giving money to help fund, or quasi-government giving money to fund a government building, where there could be a benefit. Then that's what started our whole discussion about moving to another site. So the school goes to another site, there's a vacated building. Obviously the town has a lot of facility needs for improvements, upgrades, replacement. It was a possible solution that you get money from the government to help address a lot of different town needs. And that we weren't sure if that was something that the town thought was important. Do you address all of those needs at once, or do you just concentrate on the school and what the educational needs are of the children? So that's a discussion we had a lot, and there's still some opinions out there about, yeah.
For clarity on that, they're not going to pay to fix the existing school.
No.
It's just the reimbursement and program needs for the school.
Absolutely, yes. Thank you for that. But it would be an opportunity. It's another opportunity for the town looking at it in a different way. If we were to move, what would be the benefit?
The only other grant programs in the state for public buildings is really public libraries.
After this question, you need to swivel to this side.
I'm actually working on that.
Well,
There was 3 right in a row.
What I had to say was like 3 topics ago, but I live in the neighborhood, and my grandchildren don't live here, but in the summer they come and they use the playground and they love that, and they talk about being able to walk to the school and wish they could do that where they live. And also I'm on the parking committee, and we're looking at things like using the school parking lot in the summer for employee parking for downtown and things like that. So there are uses that the town and the residents use in the summer of that building. And that's basically what I'm saying.
Great. All the way back.
Okay, I'd have to go back a little bit now too, but it's a 2-part question. The first part was, in responding to this gentleman's question, Ben said one thing, which is that the process requires looking into several sites, which I understood from the past. Your comments on the same topic, however, made it sound almost as if there were some certain margin of extra expense in one, that the state could turn down the project on that basis.
No, not at all. That's not the comment I made at all. They want you to exercise your ability to look at all of those options to make a good educational decision on what direction to place the school, or whether it's new at the Mantor or renovation at the old site. The cost implications are the burden, obviously, of the town, as well as the 41% back to the town for reimbursement. They won't make a cost differential on behalf of the town to say you're not going to get the money if it's that amount of money.
Yeah,
Okay, well.
They won't force you to choose the lower cost option.
They will not do
You
it.
can choose the most expensive option if you argue those. But there is some difference in what they reimburse.
Correct.
Renovation is actually a higher level of reimbursement as new construction is a lower level of reimbursement.
Right, so like, an example is that there's an 8% cap on civil work that's done on the site. If one site exceeds more than 8%, the town's on the hook for the 8% or higher. Both sites are challenged with that, and I think, 90% of the time they do exceed it to a degree, but at the end of the day, MSBA is not going to say you're not going to get it because you exceeded that one. They're going to, the burden of that cost on the eligible versus uneligible would be the cost differentials.
Okay, well, on the basis of that answer to the first part of my question,